This is an early morning soapbox. It's an early morning soapbox because I was excited to get to some of the protests for today in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to get my shows out the way early. We still should be having the Contributor Appreciation Show this evening. So definitely keep an eye on this channel. There's a person who's feeling pretty good about themselves today, Temple University student Evan Gorski. Now, Evan Gorski was one of these students that were out protesting. And here's the interesting part. People always ask, where are those Bernie Sanders supporters who we need to back Joe Biden? No, those Sanders supporters don't need to back Joe Biden. Those Sanders supporters need to be out there doing exactly what Evan Gorski was doing, getting their needs, their wants, what they need for the larger system. And frankly, what's better for America, be it healthcare, be it education, or for this matter, social and racial justice. Solidarity. Evan Gorski was assaulted by a cop. Now, instead of that assault being against the cop for assaulting Gorski, the cops were charging him with assault. Those charges have now been dropped after a video surfaced that was pretty sadistic of the cop wielding a baton like a maniac into a crowd of innocent bystanders. Let me make this point. Whether or not curfew is overwrought or not is irrelevant. The entire point of them putting a curfew at something like 6 o'clock is so they can criminalize everybody for being out there. Your government likes to tell you that we believe in protests, we believe in the First Amendment and everything else, but they will also put a curfew at 6 p.m. so they can basically criminalize the First Amendment. Let's just be very clear on what the government is doing here. So don't make an excuse to me that it is fair game to beat the shit out of people when they exceed curfew, because the entire point is basically to exceed curfew. If everyone went in at exactly 6 o'clock all across the United States when the government said so, then there is no such thing as protests. The entire point of protests is to be a pain in your ass. And that doesn't necessarily allow you to assault, to beat, to injure, to gas, or to, for that matter, to pepper spray, or to kill innocent human beings who are out there asserting their First Amendment rights. Politics, at this point, has failed us. Full stop. And when politics fails you and you can't get what you need in the political space, well, fact of the matter is the political space is not a real thing. Your society is constructed by people. Those people have certain things that they want and certain things that they need. And they can assert that, if not politically, outside the space through protests. And that is exactly what's taking place. They're trying to address their grievances, since our political apparatus is no longer capable of doing so. In this very specific case, one Evan Gorski, fortunately, everyone has a video camera. And the cop that beat the shit out of Gorski has just had to give up his gun. No, he hasn't necessarily been fired, but he is under investigation. I don't know what the investigation is. The man went like a maniac. Somebody said he just went nuts. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and of course subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or, for that matter, Patreon. This video is almost a self-parody of itself. The chubby guy who's wielding the baton is named Officer Baloney. Officer Baloney. Officer Baloney is a high-ranking staff inspector, but in this case, Officer Baloney is going wild. Let's watch the clip. Day at the office. Just a day at the office. Officer Baloney. Officer Baloney. Staff Sergeant or Staff Inspector Baloney. Let's hear Inspector Baloney do his job. Justice! I can exert maximum justice. Maximum justice. You know, the entire reason for peaceful protests, people don't necessarily say this, but it is true. If you're looking back over civil rights and some of the other things, the state will always resist movements like this. The entire point of the state is to be a strong, thing that's is stick-to-itive, that doesn't necessarily all that much want to change. And the police are basically the poor that are paid to beat the shit out of the poor to allow order, whatever that order is. That could be slavery, that could be apartheid, that could be Jim Crow, that could be redlining, or that could be 95% of the income going to the top 1%. Or that could be a black guy murdered in the street by a cop, casually doing so with his partners watching. They're just there for order. They're not there to protect you. They're not there to make things better. They're not there for justice. Now, in this very specific case, the mechanisms of the state are using this and deploying street fighters, their own gang of troglodytes that they pay well, in order to settle this level of unrest. Whether the unrest is right or not, whether the public agrees with the unrest, doesn't matter. Those cops are there to basically be the engines of the state and to keep the state in place. The catch is the public. When the public is trying to get the state to change, the only thing the public has at its disposal is blood. That's all. How many people get hit? How many people get beat? How many jails get full? And those people still come out there. It's an issue of patience, and it's an issue of how much abuse can the public take before the state relents. They're not fighting the police, right? When he took this hit, if this was any other person, this guy would have got up and beat the shit out of that cop with other people helping out. That's not what happened. Those people scattered. Why did those people scatter? Because they accept the police as being the sovereign in regards to the dispensing of force. This is an acknowledgement to some degree of the state. They don't have the capacity to get into a street fight with the cops. What they have is to fill those jails, to get beatings, to get injured, to have the public look at this and say, enough. And the public gets so fed up that the public forces the political system to change. Nonviolent protests do work, especially when the public is looking on thinking to themselves, this is not good. We don't like this. What do you think Martin Luther King and those African Americans were trying to do during the civil rights movement when they were taking those beatings in Selma, where they were getting out there beat by cops? The whites would be like, hey, those black folks keep talking about the cops. We never see this stuff. And then they see those black men getting beat on the streets, holding signs, in suits, not fighting back. When you see this all across the United States, in place after place, one officer baloney after the next officer baloney, going fucking haywire. Again, 99% of the people that cops kill, there are no charges against the cop. So Officer Baloney probably felt pretty good here, thinking he was going to get away with this. And again, ends up charging the guy with assault. They charge. Now, for the moment, imagine if this video didn't exist. Evan would have been charged and prosecuted. Think about that. Do you believe that what took place in Philly here is isolated in Philly? Or is it possible that the people, the poor and the blacks and the Hispanics that are complaining about the behavior of the cops, perhaps this is the routine behavior of the cops, followed by, this guy bled on me, so he assaulted me. Why was he bleeding? That's irrelevant. We're just putting in this assault. Fortunately, this video existed and Evans was let go. Prosecutors dismissed the charges against Evan Gorski, 21-year-old engineering student, I suppose probably 71% of them Sanders supporters, viewing the YouTube and Twitter videos according to his attorney. The court personnel that Gorski was being held on allegations that he assaulted a police officer by pushing a bike, causing him to break a hand. All right, so in the video, you can see the person who getting hit in the head. That's Gorski. Police sources say that the baton-wielding officer is high-ranking member of the force, Staff Inspector Joseph Baloney. I think it's Bologna, but Baloney. He earns $126,000 a year. I don't care how much he earns. The sources said Baloney was taken off the street duty Thursday evening after the article was published. He handed in his gun pending an investigation. He has not been charged with a crime or department violation. And I strongly suspect he won't be. This person said, we didn't even know where exactly they wanted us to go, meaning they were being pushed. They just started beasting people. It was a bizarre escalation of force that came out of nowhere. The police just went nuts. That's not just in Philly. It's not just in Philly. There are thousands of these videos. Not just in Philly. You guys are heroes. The people ask, where are the Sanders supporters? They're out there changing this world. Multiracial. All of them. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks all.